it again?
It was just for the story we were taping.
Oh, okay. Okay. So, Mem Test Summit Bays. We are approximately 10, 12 lines up from the bottom. So yesterday in the mission we have a machlokes Reb Tarfon and the Chachamim. How much I know is the Chachamim hold or the Tanakama holds that I know is 1/6. Reb Tarfon holds I know is 1/3. And the main part that we have to know for tonight's stuff is that when Reb Tarfon came out with his psak, that's 1/3, that's a lot, meaning 1/6 is approximately 15%, give or take. A third, you're allowed to overcharge by 33.3%, a lot more. So the people in Lud, the Tagri Lud, were very happy with Reb Tarfon's psak until Reb Tarfon came out and said, but the guy has the entire day to change his mind. The Chachamim had said that he only has a few minutes. We didn't know exact measurement of time, but Reb Tarfon gave a whole day. So then the Tagri Lud said we'd rather go with the Chachamim's psak that it's a sixth as opposed to a third, but they have to change their mind right away. So that's the first thing to know. Second thing to know is that the machlokes Rav and Shmuel over what the sixth is. Is the sixth based on the price that he paid, or is it based on what the price is from what the price is supposed to be of the item? Right. So that when we then
Yaakov, why would it be based on the price that he paid? That seems very arbitrary.
What?
I understand that the price of the item should have been a certain amount, and a shtus more, a shtus less would be considered a nah. But why would whatever he paid? Why would anything be tied to whatever he paid? What does whatever he paid have to do with it? The Isra nah?
Well, that's how you know if it's more a six, more or less. It's more or less of what?
Right. Yeah.
I'm saying so. I would assume it's more or less of the actual item, what the actual item should be costing.
So,
you're saying it's more or less of the item should be costing,
right? So what does that have to do with what you're saying? But you're saying it's still tied to the item. It's just how much you paid more.
Yeah, it's still tied to the item. Just the issue depends on the money, not the item.
Right. I'm not saying the whole thing is
interesting.
Yeah, it is. It is interesting. I have a hard time understanding it, but that's no chiddush. But yeah. So, and then the Gemara went through examples of what it is. So now the Gemara asked the kasha Tanan. We're up to Tanan, about 10, 15 lines up. First word on the line, Tanan. Haino. So now we're going to try and prove from the Mishnah. We're going to try and prove Shmuel that it has to do with the sixth of the money. So the Mishnah says, I know Dalit, but now we get the Chaz in the Mishnah. I know Dalit Kesef, me Esem Va'arba Kesef L'Sela. I know is four Kesef from 24 Kesef. That's part of a seller. Meaning what? Shtos Lemekach. That's a sixth, right? Because of 4 into 24, right? 4 goes into 24 6 times. So what does this mean? My love, the Zavin, Shavi Esrim Be'esrim Va'arba. Isn't it talking about where he sold? See, Zavin and Zavan, for this sugi you have to know the difference. Zavin means that it was sold. Zavan means a guy bought, right? Okay, so my love, the Zavin Shavi Esrim Be'esrim Va'arba. What he did is he sold something that was worth 20, and he sold it for 24. Right? Now, what is that? What it comes out? It's the 4 is a fifth of the item, right? Of the thing that was bought, but it's a sixth if you're going with how much it was paid, right? Because if you go with the 24, so then how do you go? Yeah, if it was from the 20, so then it's if you're cheshboning with he paid. I just want to make sure I say it correctly before I. Right, he sold it for 24. So, and that was 4 too much. So 4, that's a sixth. It's a sixth of 24, but it's only a fifth of 20. Yeah, that's what it is. It's a sixth of 24 that was paid, but it's only a fifth of 20. right? So which way do you go with? If you go with the 20, it's not Aina. If you go with the 24, it is Aina. And but the Mishnah calls it Aina. So if that's the case, we're going with the money paid, which is 20. So my answer is Loi, the Zavin Shavi Esrim Va'arba, the Esrim. We're talking about where the buyer wasn't ripped off, the seller was ripped off. Right? He sold 20 for 20. He sold something what was worth 24, he sold it for 20. Fine. So then the Gemara says, Minas Ana. So what are you saying? In this case, who's the one that got ripped off? Meicher. The Meicher got ripped off. Same as Seifa. So the Seifa says, Ad Mosai Mutalahser. So we said in the Seifa, how long does the guy who got ripped off have to return it? But enough time that he could show it to a tagar, to another businessman, or to his relative. But a Meicher could go and he can backtrack whenever if the Meicher was ripped off. So if you see that the Seifa is clearly not talking about the Meicher, it's talking about the Lekeach, so then the ratio also must be talking about the Lekeach. So the Gemara says, Ela Dazav and Shavi Esrim Ba'arba. It's talking about where the buyer got ripped off, and he bought, well, it's somewhat from the angle of the seller. He sold him something worth 24 for 28, which is a sixth of how much the thing was worth. Right? So that's okay, even though it doesn't say that in the Mishnah, but that's the way it goes. That's the way the Gemara is. I'm not exactly sure how it fits into the Mishnah, but fine. Then we say the same exact Shakavatari, but going on Reb Tarfon's Shita, which is that it's a third. So Tan, Hay Reb Tarfon Belud. Reb Tarfon said in Lud, Hayna Shmaina Kesef Mi Esem V'Arba Kesef L'Sela. Hayna is 8 out of 24. Shlish L'Mekach, it's a third of the Mekach. My love, the Zavin Shavi Shisari, the Esem V'Arba. It's talking about he sold something that was really 16, and he sold it for 24. So you see that we're calling it a third. So Shmamina Shlish Mais Shaninu. It's called we're calling it a third. So it's going from the money that was paid. So my answer is Loi the Zavin Shavi Esrim Va'arba B'Shitza. It's talking about where he sold something that was worth 24, and he sold it for 16. So here again, the seller, the Gemara thought that the buyer was the one getting ripped off. Now the Gemara is saying, no, it's the seller that got ripped off. So the Gemara says, Minas Ane, Meicher, you're saying that who got ripped off in the Mishnah? The Meicher got ripped off. Ema Seifa. So what about the Seifa? Amrlehem Kala Yoim Mudalasa. So Reb Tarfon said, yes, I'm very makel that you can rip somebody off up until a third. Again, it doesn't mean, we should point that out, it doesn't mean that you're allowed to do this. It means that if up until a third, well, we're going to see in the Gemara exactly what happens, but up until a third, you're not going to be forced to go back on the sale. What?
The Tarfon saying, let the buyer beware.
Well, for what?
It's not in Issa for the Meicher, so he's jump.
Well, I think it's still in Isser. It's just a matter of can he make it? Can the guy back out? That's really what it is, right? Can the guy back out? So, but what about the Seifa? The Seifa said the Meicher could be always chayzer, and you just finished saying that the Reish is talking about the Meicher, and here we're saying the Reish is only talking about the Lekeach, but a Meicher could change his mind forever if he was ripped off. So it can't be talking about the Meicher. Ela Dezavin Shavi Chavdalid Betlas in the Trin. We're talking about where he sold something that was worth 24, and he ripped the guy off to 32, right? Which is 33%. So they're both the same Shakavatari. Fine. So then the Gemara says, Tani Kavasei the Shmuel, we learn like Shmuel, Misha Utalalav Yada Ala Yana. Whoever it was put on him, meaning whoever was the one that got ripped off, he has the upper hand. Ketzad. The let's say the guy sold him something worth 5, but he sold it to him for 6. Minasana, who's the one that got ripped off? Lekeach, right? The Lekeach bought something for 6 that was really worth 5. Yad Lekeach al Yoina, the Yad of Lekeach is on the upper hand. Ratza Aimer Tenli Musi, if he wants, he could say, give me back my money. Right? He could say, I want out from the whole deal. I tenli Masha Niseni, or he could say, I'll stay in the deal, but you gotta refund me what you ripped me off. Machaloi. But if he sold him on Tamar Aleph now, Shava Sheish B'chamish, something that was worth 6 for 5, meaning this is the seller got ripped off, Minasan and Meicher. So who got ripped off? The Meicher got ripped off. Yad Meicher alal Yoina, so then he has the upper hand. Ratza Omer Loi Tainli Mikri, he could say, give it back to me, give me back my item. Oitenli Masha Niseni, or just give me back, pay me extra. Pay me extra that you ripped me off. So you see that we're going with how much money it was, not based on the price. Right? Yeah, that's the right. That's all a raya to Shmuel. Fine. Now the Gemara has a shaila all based on the story with the Tigre Lord. Again, let's just review the story. So Reb Tarfon came out and he said it's not oinah until 33%. So everybody was very happy with that. Then he said, yeah, but the guy has all day to go back if it's taka oinah. So then they were very unhappy with that. Yeah, so the Gemara is going to ask, Iboilahu, Pachas Mishtos L'Rabbanon. So now another thing before we go weiter. There's really 3, maybe we should have said this before. There's really 3 madregas of being ripped off. There's less than a 6th, there's a 6th exactly, and then there's more than a 6th. Right? Those are the 3, and each one's gonna have its own dinim. The real machlokes is really only when it's exactly a 6th. If it's more than a 6th, then it depends. If it's the Michael they got ripped off or the Lekeach they got ripped off, they can just back out of the whole deal. If it's less than a 6th, then everybody holds that the deal is good. Right? It's only a shaila of whether the guy could ask back for the extra money that was charged. Right, Rabban, that's when you go into Frankel's, not to bring up a sore subject, you go into Frankel and say, hey, look at this, you charge me who knows how much more money. So meaning, do you even have that even if they say it's not enough, but it was a little bit higher, but do you still have the right to go in there and take it back? And if it's exactly a 6th, then that's where it gets a little dicey.
But do you know how to establish the price? What's the established price for orange juice in Far Rockaway?
I have no idea how to cheshbon.
Okay.
I have no idea.
Very good.
I'm hoping by the time we finish this parak, I'll have some semblance of an idea. Okay. I'm not holding my breath on that one, but I would love to really understand these halachas of a little bit to know. With the business climate nowadays, with so many different deals going, it's very difficult to prove if there's a going rate at all, right? Yeah, and then tomorrow's daf we start getting into a little bit of what the story is. Yeah. Yeah. So that this shaila now is going to cheshbon exactly when is the mechila, when is not, when there's no mechila. Right? So let's see. So let's say they were ripped off. He was ripped off less than a 6th. Right? Now again, see that's what you see how the way the Gemara calls it? It's pachas mishtus l'rabbanon, less than a 6th to the rabbanon, meaning that means that he's not allowed to do it, meaning there's a tzad that even if it was less than a 6th, if you overcharge, you're gonna have to go, you may be able to just back out. Yeah, so let's see. Suppose it's just Rabbanon. La'alter havi mechila. Meaning if it's less than a six, we're all saying that the mechira is a good mechira. You can't back out. Was that an automatic? Right? Or does he also have enough time to show it around? Right? So like again, I guess it's good that you brought up the case. Just saying you decided, you went to the grocery stores, right? So now you have enough time to, even if we say that you weren't ripped off and there was no I know, but it was higher price than they should have charged. Does that mean right when you pay for it, that's it, you're stuck? Or maybe you have enough time to go discuss it with your friends or to go to the other grocery store, see how much they charge. And then you have, let's say that's a half hour. So you have that amount of time. Meaning, even though for sure the mekach, the deal is a deal, nobody can back out. But do you have time to at least say, I want the money, I want my money back, right? That's the Gemara Shaila. So then the Gemara says, and if you're going to say that he has enough time to show it to his friend or to show it to another businessman to see if he got ripped off, then if that's the case, if that's the case, and you have time to go see, and then you could back out at least from the extra. So then what's the difference between if it's less than a sixth or a sixth? It seems to be the same thing, right? So the Gemara says, no, there is it. Meaning, right, because both of them, you have enough time. That's what Mishnah said. You have enough time. From a sixth, you have enough time to see if you're ripped off or not. So then there's no difference. So the Gemara says, Ika, there is a difference. If it's a sixth, then whoever got ripped off has the upper hand. Ratza chayzer, if he wants, he could just back out. Ratza kaino maser, I know. If he wants, he could be kainet and make the guy give him back the ayna. But if it was less than a six, kana, he's kainet umaser ayna, and he gives back the ayna, right? But meaning he doesn't have a choice in the matter. He is kainet for sure. But then he'll get back the ayna. But that's it. But he doesn't have a choice. So bottom line is, does the guy have enough time? Does he not have enough time? So Tashema, Chazul, Divrei Chacham. So we said that when Reb Tarfon announced, initially when he announced that it was up to 33%, they were very happy. Then he said, but you have a whole day. The purchaser has a whole day to change his mind. So then they said they went back to holding like the Chacham, which is Sastam we have to discuss too, but we're not going to. I guess we'll discuss for a second. Since when are the Tagri Lud calling the shots of who they're paskening like? Right? It's almost like, you're coming to Bez and saying, no, we're going to go with the other Shita. Well, who are you? Right? I don't understand that part. Did anybody see any pshatim on that? Like, what?
No, that's the joke about the Erev in Lakewood. That's the joke.
The what?
The guy said, Reb Aaron held you can't have an Erev. He says, the Satnik. I said, what's for Reb Aaron? Ich bin a Reb Zalmi. Regular lake with Yugaman, stop the Satnik Yugaman from carrying his towers. The Lakewood says, the Reb Aaron said you can't have a Erev here. So he says, what's Reb Aaron? Ich bin from Reb Zalmi.
Okay, yeah. So anyway, I guess this is Reb Tarfon and the Chachamim. But the point is that, I mean, I don't know what the point is, but it seems like these guys were calling the shots of who they want to paskin like. Okay, that's a side point. So Toshima, Chazul Divrei Chacham. So it says they went back, they decided they're going to go to paskin like the Chachamim, meaning they would rather have Aina be at 15, 16%, and the guy has only a little bit of a short window to change his mind, than have a 33% Aina, but the guy has all day to change his mind. So why did they change their mind? So Savrua pachas mishlish l'Reb Tarfon kepachas mishlish l'Rabbanadam. So they were thinking that less than a third to Reb Tarfon is the same din as less than a sixth to the Rabbanon. Right? Meaning there's three levels here. Right? There's less than a third, which we less than a third or less than a sixth. Meaning we're equating both. The less than a sixth to the Chachamim is the same thing as less than a third to Reb Tarfon. So less than a third or a sixth, the sale is a good sale. If it's exactly a third or a sixth, then whoever got ripped off, either the buyer or the seller, can say he has a choice that he could either want it to be given back, or he can just negate the whole thing, or he can want the Aino to be given back. And then you have more than a third or a sixth, then either side can knock off the deal. Right? But meaning they're both equal. So
I know I'm crazy. Would this have anything to do with the Rabbanan and Reb Tarfon sheet is about how much matzah you have to eat, a third or a sixth?
I hear. 1 second, Reb Tarfon. I hear. Okay, yeah, all right. I don't know. So anyway, so if you say that the measurement for less than a sixth to Rabbanon is with enough time to show it to his friend or to another businessman, and Reb Tarfon says it's a whole day, then we understand why the workers wanted to change their mind and go back to the Chachamim. Right? Because it's not, there's no more power to him. Right? I have to remember the cheshbon here. I'm just looking at the Rashi, explain it right. Right, because the Chachamim, when he only had a little bit of time to do it, so then he loses everything. Meaning he's totally, whoever got ripped off is done. He got ripped off. He's done. But now the Reb Tarfon said that you have a whole day, and he said that if you're going to go a whole day, you're going to knock off the entire sale. Then that's a big risk, right? Meaning it wasn't worth it for them to be able to charge that much extra. And we're going to see on Amid Bays, and this is where it also gets confusing. We're going to say that it's not so common to be ripped off that much. So meaning there wasn't so much skin in the game for them for that. So then it all makes sense. Meaning if
the Moichim wanted to have less time for people to be chayzer, even though they couldn't rip them off as much.
Right. So if you say it this way, so then it makes sense. But if you say that if the rip-off less than a sixth Rabbanon, so the mechila is immediate, right? On to Mebeis now. Well, the Reb Tarfon Nami, and according to Reb Tarfon also, if it was ripped off less than a third, it's a mechila. So then why would you want to go out? Why would you want to back out of Reb Tarfon? Am I chazur with the Reb Tarfon? Why would they go back with the Reb Tarfon? Reb Tarfon is way better. Because what the Rabbanon said is, I know that Reb Tarfon having mechila. According to Reb Tarfon, it's a mechila. Meaning, if you say, again, what was the initial question? Is when it's less than a sixth, does it happen? Does the mechira happen right away? Or does the guy have a little bit of time to back out? So then we understand why they went back to Reb Tarfon, because the Reb Tarfon changed his din to a whole day. For the Chachamim, it was only a little bit of time. But if you say that less than a sixth and less than a third, the guy once he paid, then it's over with, right? So then for sure, why wouldn't you want to go with Reb Tarfon based on the less than in the scenario of less than a sixth? Yes, and a Chanami. If you went higher than a sixth or a third, it would probably be better to go with the Chachamim. But assuming that the majority of the time the rip-offs were less than a third or less than a sixth, then of course you'd rather go with Reb Tarfon. So it must be that it's immediate. So the Gemara says that's not a right. So that's what the Gemara's raya was. The Gemara answers, "Mi savras pachas mishus Reb Tarfon, ke pachas mishtus l'Rabbanan dami." Who says that they're equal? Meaning you would usually align it, meaning less than a third to the Chachamim is the same as less than a sixth to Reb Tarfon, and a sixth to Reb Tarfon to Reb Chachamim is like a third straight on, spot on to Reb Tarfon, and more than a sixth is the same thing as more than a third. That's what you would think. It's all aligned. The Gemara says no, it's not true. Right? Kepachas rishus rabbanon. Mi savas pachas mishus Reb Tarfon. Kepachas mishus rabbanon. Don't be loy. Mishtus vat shlish Reb Tarfon from a sixth to a third. From mishtus loy mishtus. Right, from a third. I'm sorry, from a sixth to a third, according to Reb Tarfon, kishtus atzma l'rabbanon. That's like the equivalent of a sixth straight on. Again, remember we said there's 3 levels. So we're saying now that Reb Tarfon held that from a third to a sixth has the same din as the actual sixth, right? Meaning, so because according to Chachamim, if he was ripped off on by a sixth on the nose, then he has a choice whether he wants to back out, whether he wants to just take back his whatever he was ripped off, right? And that's what the Gemara thought. Now the Gemara is saying that if the Reb Tarfon's holding that if he was ripped off from a sixth to a third, then it's the same as the sixth, right? So what would be the difference between them? Because a Chacham would say that it's totally over, meaning because it was more than a sixth. So either party can back out. And Reb Tarfon, but according to Reb Tarfon, he would say that only the seller can back out. Right? Or only the seller can back out. Fine. So the Gemara asks, if that's the case, but my samchu meikara. So good. So now you fixed that. I don't know if now you fixed it. We had it fixed before, but that fits in that they changed their mind to go back with the Chachamim. But if this is the case, then what were they happy with in the beginning? Tifshoit, the bittul mekach l'rabbanan la'olam chayzer. We would have to say that according to the Chachamim, that you have all the time, you have forever to change your mind if you got ripped off. The kiman da amra lahu Reb Tarfon havi oina, because when Reb Tarfon said that from even more than a sixth up into a third is oina samchu, they were happy. So ki amra lahu kol hayom, and then when he said you have a whole day to change your mind, chazru, then they changed their mind. Because if you say that the bittul mekach according to Rabbanon was enough time to see the tagar l'krayva, but my samchu, what would they have been happy with? Because if he goes from a sixth to a third, then we said that only the buyer could back out because that's not enough. I know according to Reb Tarfon, right? But according to Rabbanon, that's full I know, and either side can back out. Right? But they both have a small window in order to do this, then why were they happy? So Gemara says, no, they were happy. They were happy with something exactly on the sixth. Meaning if he ripped them off on the sixth on the nose, the Reb Tarfon mechila. According to Reb Tarfon, that's a mechila, and the guy can't back out at all. Well, Rabbanon, I know, and according to Rabbanon, it's I know. So that's why they were happy to go Reb Tarfon initially. Okay, that's the hardest part of the daf. Fine. So they had a shayla. I hope I explained it semi clear. I don't know. I apologize if I didn't. If I didn't, it's because I didn't understand, not because I understand I'm not doing a good job. Bitul mekach l'rabbanon. So according to Rabbanon, who said there's a bitul mekach, right? If you rip a guy off more than a sixth, it's a bitul mekach. La'olam chayzer. Does he have it? Can he back out forever? Or does he only have that limited amount of time? Meaning, can he back out for that limited amount of time or not? Meaning, does he have forever or not? And if you say, and if you say he only has enough time to go to the Tagar Krayvai, then what's the difference between a sixth and more than a sixth? If you're going to say that, there is a difference. What? Somebody say, okay, Ika. If it was a sixth, so there's somebody who, if he got ripped off, he could change his mind. And if it's more than a 6, shneim chayzin, they can both go back. So what's the din? Right. So again, the bittul mekach. Do you have all your whole life to change your mind, or you only have a limited amount of time? So Tashema Chazar Divrei Chachamim. So they went back. The Tagre Lud went back to do like the words of the Chachamim. So if you're going to say that the bittul mekach l'Rabbanan b'dei sheyira l'Tagre l'Krayva, well, Tarfin kol hayayim mishamachi chazru. That's why they went back, because they would rather not be vulnerable for the entire day. But if you say that if there's a bittul mekach, you have your whole life to change your mind, then amai chazru. Why they go back to the chachamim? Then the Rebbe Tarfon nichelu tfei. Reb Tarfon be much better. The kamashvilu ayna kol hayom. Because he says that you have a whole day, right? The sulai, but not more than that. So it comes out that Reb Tarfon would be way better on both fronts. So how could you possibly think that the Chacham say you have your whole life? Then the whole Mishnah would be very difficult to understand. So Gemara says, no, it's not true. Bittul mekach lo shchiach. For somebody to be mevatel the mekach is not common, right? Meaning that somebody would rip somebody off that much is not common, right? I mean, I'm assuming that even these guys who doesn't seem like we're the greatest, most honest businessmen, are basically saying, oh, okay, so it doesn't help us. Meaning Reb Tarfon's kula doesn't help us so much because nobody's ripping anybody off that higher percentage, right? Right, but then still, if the Chacham was saying forever, then why? If the Chacham say forever, so then why is Reb Tarfon still not better? Oh no, because of the 6th, right? That's why. Because of the 6th, where the Chachamim, because there the Chachamim say you only have a few minutes. So that was very much worth it for the Tagri Lud to have only a few minutes. Okay. Amar Rava. So Rava says, yes. So now how are we going with the how are we going with the psak here? So Amar Rava. Hilchasa, what's the halacha? Pachas mishtos, less than a 6, nikna mekach, the mekach is purchased. Yotzer al shtos, if it's more than a 6, bittul mekach, it's batel, meaning either side can be mevatel it. Shtos, if it was exactly a 6, kana, the kinyan works, umachzer eina, but you have to give back the eina. Right? And how much time do you have? And in both cases, the 6th and more than a 6th, you only have a little bit of time to change your mind, right? Which is basically what Tagri Lud wanted to do. So again, even if we don't understand this whole sugya till now, right? The bottom line is that as far as I know, this is the way we paskin. Less than a 6th, the kinyan happens, but you could ask back for the overcharge. More than a 6th, either party could back out, and exactly a 6th, it works, and you machzer the eina. Right?
Less than a 6th, you could ask for it back. I thought it was mechila.
Less than a what did I say? Less than a 6.
I thought a 6 you could ask for it back, but less than a 6 it's your meichel.
You mean the way we pass it? Yeah. Well, there's two.
Right.
Yeah, there's two. Yeah, the way you're right, 100%. That's why I said it. Yes, I'm sorry. Less than a 6, it works. Finished. You're done. Yes, thank you. More than a 6, it's bottle. And the 6th itself that's when you get back to Eina. That's Shita from Nasan. Yehuda Nasi Yomer, Yad Moicher al Yaina. Whoever was the Yad Moicher, meaning if the guy underpaid, so the Moicher, the seller, was ripped off, but it means the same way. Rashi says it means he's just talking about from that angle. But if the buyer was ripped off, it's the same thing. Whoever got ripped off has the upper hand. You can say, give me back the whole thing. I want out. anisani, or give me back what I was ripped off. And both of them have to be within that amount of time. Right? So what's the nafkamina between Reb Nosson and Reb Yehuda Nasi? Right? It's just a matter of if
the six itself, whether you can undo the sale.
Right. So what are you doing with a sixth itself? Which is very interesting. Why the Gemara is so busy with a sixth itself, right? I mean, a sixth itself also. Does that mean like right on the nose? There's no decimals, no fractions. It's a sixth.
6-9.
Not right. It's exactly a sixth, right? It's a Gemara very busy with exactly a sixth. Unless the Gemara is assuming that maybe people the people knew that you can get away with it up until a sixth. So maybe that. So then they have to pin it down. Maybe you can try and find them to be off a little bit. I don't know. Anyway, so that's the bottom line. Okay, let's do a little bit more because tomorrow's daf is a little longer than this. So Ad Masay Muta is a little bit easier now. Ad Masay Muta Lahasa. How long do you have to go back? Right. So we said you go show a relative or show another business guy. This is only talking about if the lekeach was ripped off. So lekeach has a little bit amount of time to go, a short window to find out if he was ripped off. But a meicher la'olam chayzer. A meicher, he can always be chayzer. Right? We'll see in tomorrow's daf why that is. Name him a. So let's say we have a proof. Yeah, from chazul l'divrei chachamim. Right, going back to the Tagri Lud, that they changed their mind to go back to the Chacham. So if you say that the Meicher can always go back, it doesn't, meaning 10 years later, he could say, hey, you paid me too little. That's why they went back to the Chachamim, because there was nothing for them. They're the sellers, right? So they had their whole life in order to change their mind. But the others, they want the other side to have less time. But if you say that the meicher is like a lekeach, so then my nafkalumina, right? Why were they upset? The same way the Chacham told the lekeach, he has a small window to change the mind. So they also did it for the meicher too. Meaning they would also, whatever advantage or disadvantage the buyer would have, the meicher would have the same thing, right? It's going to help everybody. So the Gemara says, Tagri Lud lo shchiach de to. It wasn't common for the Tagri Lud to make mistakes, right? Meaning, if they did it, meaning they were the sellers. Tagri Lud very rarely made mistakes. They were on their game. So therefore, they weren't worried. They weren't worried about the time limits that they would have if they got ripped off and they were underpaid. So that was not a concern of theirs. All right. Fine. Okay.
You gotta catch Myra because you have a busy night tonight.
Yeah, don't worry. Yeah. I was there. Yeah. Thank you for looking out for me. Yeah, we'll stop over there. Okay, we'll say a Tillam. Shkoyach, everybody.